Shalom, and welcome to a few quality moments around the Shabbat table with the Rabbi's son. To all of my friends all over the world, I say good Sabbath to you, or Shavua Tov if you are in the far, far east and you're catching this after the Sabbath has already faded from your view. But I hope to enjoy with my friends in the United States, as well as maybe in Europe, a little bit of a taste of Sabbath. Thank you for letting me share your Sabbath day with you, this blessed day of holiness, this blessed day of blessing and peace and shalom and rest. May it be a time when we actually touch heaven and let heaven touch us and change us. Thank you again for joining in with me today. And today we were talking about the final parsha of the final section, the final subdivision of the book of Exodus. Why do we do this? Why do we, every week I come together, come with you and ask you to spend a little time around the Shabbat table with me discussing the Torah? What's the end game? What's the purpose? Well, it's because we are on a great quest, beloved. There has been an awakening in our hearts. I hope it has been in yours. I know it has been in mine. I pray that this awakening has caused a consciousness that someone's doing Overwatch. The great creator of the universe Overwatch program is on, and we're at the focal point of it. And so we felt the sense of pursuit, divine pursuit of us, and it's awakened the sense of us wanting to pursue and get to know him. So we are seriously seeking to get to know the creator of the universe. And that's what we're doing on these Shabbat mornings, these Sabbath mornings, these Saturday mornings. We come together, and outside the bounds of religious form or doctrine or theology, we go right to the source. We want to go together right to the source. And I'm not the source. The source is the Torah. So we who are seriously seeking to get to know the creator of the universe without the prefigured, preconceived notions of organized religion of some variety or another, without some institutional bias, we want to come to the Torah together to find out what the Creator actually has to say. Not what men say that he says, not what books say that he says, but to find out what the Creator actually has to say about the reason that he created the world and what he sees as the meaning and purpose for our lives, for your life, beloved, for my life. Thank you for letting me be part of this quest for you, and thank you for being part of this great quest for me. I welcome your questions, your comments, your prayer requests, your considerations, the things you'd like to see talked about. Go ahead and put those in the comments section. Let me know who you are, where you are, and who else is on this quest with me. But if there are answers to the things the questions we ask, if there are answers to why the world was created and what is the meaning and purpose of our lives, they're not found in organized religion. They're found in the book, the Torah, the Creator's script that he has given to us. So welcome to a few moments around the Shabbat table with the Rabbi's son. This is the final week, as I've said, of the book of Exodus, the second installment in this great 5-part download of wisdom of here I am, who I am, here I am. What do you want to know? Part that we call the Torah. And this is the second of the 5 sections. Exodus is the name of the book in English, Shemot in Hebrew, and the original language that the Creator designed and used to communicate these truths was Hebrew, and so we use the Hebrew phraseology. Pekudei is this particular subdivision or subsection. It's Exodus 38, verse 21, through the end of the book, which is 40, chapter 40, that is, verse 38. So it's week 23 of our grand quest adventure, and it is leading into a segue to the third book of Torah, which will be Vayikra, known in the Western world, of course, as Leviticus. Let's enjoy our time together today. Let's enjoy discussing Pekudei. Literally in English, you could probably translate it many ways, but one way it's pronounced, our common usually is accounts. The accounts, the reportings of the tabernacle, Pekudei. As we conclude the tabernacle narrative, at least this phase of it, we make an accounting. We come before the Holy One actually before his agent Itamar of the priestly line of the tribe of Levi, the son of Aharon. We come before Itamar and all the Levi'im, and they are taking an account of what we have done with these precious things, this precious blueprint and this precious diagrams and specification sheets given to us as to how to bring heaven to earth, how to bring the beauty realm of our King, the one we are seeking to know, how to bring his beauty realm down into earth. And we're going to learn some majestic, wonderful truth about that, a spiritual law, a law of spiritual science, as I like to call them. We're going to learn that today. I'll hold off. I'm tempted to say it now, but I'll wait. I'll just tell you that this is the dramatic, final, concluding parsha of the second book of Torah, Sefer Shemot. The word Pekudei, I told you that literally often it's interpreted to mean reports or inspection reports or accountings. But it really means a lot more than that. The Hebrew never really can be related directly to a couple of words in English. Hebrew is such a deep, dark, not deep, deep light, I guess would be the right way to put it, a deep light source. And you look farther you look into the light, the more you can see. And so this is what Pekudei would mean, is the result, the aftermath of an in-person, face-to-face visitation. If you will remember Joseph as he's known in the Western world, before he died, before we ended the book of Genesis, or Bereshit as it's known in Hebrew, before that all ended, he made this statement, this declaration to us, that the Holy One will surely visit you. The Creator of the universe will surely visit you, and he will bring you up from this place. Well, that was when we were still in Egypt and in bondage, and this key word, this key verb, he will visit you. This idea of Pekudei comes from that word, pakad, and Pekudei is a substance or outreach or outworking of this visitation. So to conduct an in-person, face-to-face visitation, this is that visitation. If we look back to what Joseph talked about, this is that. We are experiencing it in this parsha. We are reading about it. We are letting it, the narrative of it, awaken the reality of it in us. We're not just about reading a story about an old-time thing. This is about something we are reorienting ourselves to, and that is awakening spiritual memory, DNA memory from well beyond our physical bodily birth that goes back into our DNA. Well, the Holy One has promised that he would, and now he is conducting an in-person, face-to-face visitation. He does it through his designated representatives, and he's going to find out. We'll do it later in the day. He'll do it before the chapter 40 of the book is ended. Before the last chapter is written, he will make the personal first face-to-face visitation. He will pakad us himself. So to pakad, to bring about a Pekudei, is to conduct an in-person, face-to-face visitation with someone, or a group, or a collective, for the purpose of, could be mustering, gathering together, building up, calling to a duty, inspecting, assessing the condition or maturity of, giving input to, assessing the state of readiness of, engaging with, and giving input such as commissioning or discipline or reward or equipping or a lot of things, a lot of reasons why you could have a personal face-to-face visitation like this, a pakad. And the Pekudei, depending on how the tone and the sequence of events of the visitation go, is to what kind of a report or what kind of Pekudei or fallout you're going to get. Well, what are the reasons why the Holy One visits us? If we're trying to get to know the Holy One and get to know his reason for creating the world and his reason for us and his purpose and his calling upon our lives and what we're supposed to be doing with life and the gift of breath and speech and the gift of thought and the gift of cognition and all these gifts that he's given to us, what are we supposed to be doing with them? It relates back to his pakad, and we are to be in the sequels of the pakad. We are to be post-pakad, post-visitation at all times, remembering what he has said to us, remembering the download of this face-to-face visitation, this breathing upon us that he's done by his presence, being with him, and that is supposed to change everything about us. We're in the sequel of the pakad. Why has he come? Why does he visit with us? Why do we want him to come to us? Why do we yearn for a contact, a communication, a confrontation? Why do we learn to have him appear to us, manifest to us? Why do we cry like Moses, show me your face? Teach me your ways. Why do we cry such things? Why is there this yearning within us? He has placed it in there because he has desired for us to be ready, prepare ourselves for, and then walk appropriately after the Pekudei, the meeting, the face-to-face visitation. Well, the purposes are two. Relational is first. The first general purpose is relational. He wants not only for us to get to know him and who he is and why he does what he does. He wants us to get to know us. He wants us to get to see ourselves through his eyes, through long-term perspective, through eyes of love, through eyes that know the potential he's put in us, through eyes that know the purpose for which he has put us upon the earth. He wants us to see ourselves that way. So the first purpose of his visitation is relational, is to build in us an understanding of who he is and who we are in light of who he is. And the second one, the second main purpose of Pekudei, the Pekudei, is functional, to design to facilitate the best that we can be, to make us the best we can be, to bring out the good in us, to bring out patterns and disciplines of efficiency, to make us productive for the ecosystem he has created, for the earth and the heavens, to the age that we're in, the general environment that we are in the earth in general, but also and specifically for the spheres of influence that he assigns to us, families, houses, villages, communities, workplaces. Everywhere we go, we're to have an efficient, productive ecosystem engendering and nurturing effect. Sphere of influence management comes through Pekudei. We are to be known by knowing him, by being with him. So this Pekudei is this sequence. There has been a visitation by the Holy One, and there is now going to be a fallout or a response to that visitation. That is the Pekudei. That's what we'll be reading about, studying about, talking about on this final Sabbath of the second book of Torah, as we get to know why we're here, who he is, who we are, what we're supposed to be doing with life. These are the Bnei Israel chronicles, the building of a great nation. The chronicles of Exodus that we read about, or Shemot as it's called in Hebrew, this whole book has been about building this great nation that the Holy One promised to Abraham. And now we're almost there. We have a few more things, 3 more books of Torah to prepare us to become who we really are. But we've come a long way since slaving away in the slime pits of Egypt. We've come a long way since cringing before the taskmasters. We've come a long way since wondering whatever happened to the God of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, since falling into the patterns of the religion of the peoples of Egypt and the surrounding nations. We've come a long way, but we've got a long way to go. But these are the chronicles of that journey that we're taking. And this is the Pekudei, the passing under the rod, or giving an account, getting audited, and taking the lessons of what we've done right and what we've done wrong. Reconsidering what's happened over this course of this book. Reconsidering what's happened since we walked out of Egypt on the 15th day of the first month, according to the new calendar he has assigned to our nation. What's happened since then? What have we done with all the words that he's spoken over us? The Creator's speak that he spoke over us, beginning with the Aseret HaDibrot, the 10 words that he spoke on that 6th day of Sivan, the 6th day of the 3rd month of our biblical year. All those words, what have we done with those words? What have we done with the Mishpatim discourse? Those 2 chapters or so of scenarios, of hypotheticals, of get to know the way I think and the way I act and interpret life and circumstances on earth through my lens, he would say. That's the Mishpatim discourse of chapters 21 and 22 of Exodus. So what have we learned? What have we learned about the tabernacle, the Mishkan discourse, about learning how to realm travel, to be able to base ourselves in 2 places at once, have a base in the beauty realm where we are courtiers of the great king, familiar with and comfortable in and honoring his chambers and courts and throne room, and yet also walking amongst the midst of fallen men in groaning territories of the earth, in places where there's a need of a touch of the Master's hand, a touch of bringing beauty from heaven to earth, being able to realm travel. What have we learned about all these lessons we've learned from the Mishpatim and discourse and the Mishkan discourse? We are ready for a review. What have we learned? What are we doing? Our preview of this parsha is why does he include this section as the segue into Sefer Vayikra, into the third book, which is mostly called Leviticus in the Western world. There's a lot to learn in Leviticus about how to host and be a good steward of the presence of the Holy One. If he's going to dwell in our midst, if he's going to dwell with us, if we're going to be beauty realm people, even in the midst of a ugliness realm world, if we're going to be that, what's the cost? What are the conditions? What are the requirements? What are the necessary things to make that a reality, an effective reality that actually brings heaven to earth and displaces the Ra, Shekad, Hamas, evil, corruption, and violence, cruelty that has infected this world? What is it going to take? That's what this parsha is all about. Now, I want to kind of get into the issue of the timeline. Let's remember, because we're ending a book here. We have been doing some things in this book, and it started for us as far as this journey we're on. The first day of Aviv, or actually the day 15 is when it really began to come into play. The 15th day of the first month of the new biblical year he's given to us in the springtime, and that was the 15th day is when we left Egypt. It's just been a few months ago. We're in the month of, according to the script of the Creator script of Torah, this is the seventh month now in Tishri that we're beginning to talk about. But it all started back in the first month, 6.5 months ago. The Exodus took place. We haven't even been out of Egypt a year yet in the story that's being told, the way in which we're recreating this, because we relive this every year. To the Holy One, a year is not just a cycle around the sun, the earth cycle around the sun. It is a reproduction of the year of the Exodus and the Sinai experience. Every season, every year is that for us. That's what his people are supposed to do, relive the experiences of Sinai. So we started with the first month, and the 15th day, the Exodus. Day around 22 was the Sea of Reeds experience and the Song of the Sea. And we began to get rid of some junk from Egypt and get some downloads from heaven about who we are, who he is. And then with 2 months passed as we were journeying through the wilderness, and we get to Sinai in the first day of the third month. Sivan is the way it's usually called now, that month. And day 1 we arrived at Sinai, the place of the thorn bush, and the mountain where the Holy One had spoken to Moshe and called him to be the prophet of the Exodus. Whenever we get to that place and the Holy One calls Moshe up and gives him the betrothal proposal. If you when and to the extent you will shema my voice and shamar my covenant, then you will be to me Am Segula Li. You will be a people of treasures, cherishing, that I show forth to the rest of the world as the model that I want them to follow. You will be my Mamlekat Kohanim. You will be my kingdom of royal ambassadors, emissaries to the nations and to the peoples and the ethnicities of the world. And you will be my Goy Kadosh. You will be my nation of Kedusha, fueled by the energies of heaven, Kedusha, holiness, holy, 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 being your theme song and being the essence of your life. Holiness, holiness, holiness being your passion, being what you carry into the world that makes it look like light to them. Well, this is what we got, the betrothal proposal, on the first day of the third month. So we're 2 months into this whole journey, and we've already received this betrothal proposal. We say yes. Day 6 of Sivan of the third month, we go up the mountain partially. We hear the loud trumpet sound, and then the voice of the Holy One speaks over us, the 10 words, redefining who we are, redefining what we think about, what's important in life, commissioning our emotions, our flesh, our thoughts, our minds, our likes and dislikes, everything about us, mind, will, and emotions being reprogrammed by his directions, His words, his creator speak. Day 7, the next day, begins the Mishpatim discourse. He began to tell us the grand plan about how we can actually think like him, act like him, and introduce healing into the world for the redemption of mankind as a species and for the restoration of creation to its intended Edenic state of beauty and fruitfulness and shalom. Oh, that's what we're looking for. That's what he wants us to do. That's our mission. That's our purpose on earth. And so day 8 of the 3rd month, he began with the purification of the camp. Moshe was called to do certain things in the camp, and that was in preparation for what's going to take place next. Day 9, the next day, the ascent of the 74. Moshe, Aharon, Yehoshua, or Joshua as he's called in the Western world, and Nadav and Abihu and the 70 elders of Israel go up the mountain, and then Moshe is called a bit further than that, and that's when we got the Mishkan discourse, and he began to talk to us about these pictures, this throne room and courts and chambers of the heavenlies coming to earth, what it would look like if we were to take the earthly vision that he showed Moshe, and through the scripture was showing to all of us, if we took that and used substances of earth as he directed, according to his plans, his model, and his blueprint, and built that upon the earth. Oh, what would happen? That was what we learned about then. We get in the next month, in the month that's called Tammuz, we had the issue of the golden calf and the season of Ish Patoch Aholo, of every man going to the entrance of his own tent, as we tried to recover from our own mistakes. We tried to recover from the sense that we were not ready for his holiness to come and dwell with us yet, because we still had so much of Egypt, so much of the world, so much Rosh Hashanah and Hamas in us. It was a shocking revelation that all of us, including our leaders, Moshe and Aaron, had this stuff in them. So we had much more to go. So the season of Ish Patoch Aholo concluded in Elul. We had the first day of Elul. That's the 6th month of the biblical year. Moshe ascended, was called to ascend, went up with the second set of tablets, had those inscribed by the Holy One, had the cleft of the rock experience, 40 days, 40 nights of vision for the future, about the plan for the Holy One, for mankind, and particularly for us as his covenant people. We came down with the second tablets shining, and his face shining, the tablets glowing because they've been inscribed by the finger of God on the 10th day of Tishri, the day we know as Yom Kippur, and celebrated and observed as Yom Kippur. He came down with those tablets, face aglow, hands full. He gave this gift, and the forgiveness was had. We sensed the atonement, the covering over all the Rosh Hashanah, Hamas, and the consequences of that. And then the 14th day, the day we now celebrated, the first day of Sukkot, he called us together to Kahal, to come together his way, and told us it's time to build the tabernacle. Wow! Okay, so that's what we've been through so far. That's bringing us up to today, after Moshe has called us together and begun to download, like he did in Parsha Vayakel last week, about what to do now to get ready. We're going to take the words and the visions that he's shown to us and make them a functional reality upon the earth, step by step, stage by stage, according to the blueprint and according to the instructions. Wow. Well, we've learned, so these summarize the fundamental laws of spiritual science. And it's my term that we've learned during this period of the Exodus. We first learned, after getting to Sinai at least, that for every harmful word and action that men can release on earth under the influence of the Ra, the Shechat, and Hamas, the Holy One provides a pathway that leads to redemption. God works all things together for good for those who love him, who are called according to his purpose. I'll repeat spiritual science law number 1. For every harmful word or action that men can release upon the earth under the influence of Rosh Hashanah and Hamas, the Holy One provides a pathway that leads to redemption, restoration, and healing. That's such good news. That's the good news the world needs to hear. That's the good news our souls, our spirits need to hear. That's good news our families need to hear. For every harmful word and action men can release upon the earth under the influence of Rosh Hashanah and Hamas, the Holy One provides a pathway that leads to redemption, restoration, and healing. Hallelujah. Second law of spiritual science. Every object that the Holy One directs to be built and serviced in the tabernacle, in the Mishkan discourse, corresponds to something that's relates to the Messiah and the whole redemptive plan, and also relates to what our daily life is to consist of. Every workstation, every furnishing, it's called by many people in the tabernacle. There's 6 of them. Every workstation, every furnishing corresponds to something that should be part of our devotional life. Not that we're actually supposed to physically have a tabernacle now today. We don't have one. We don't have altars. We don't have the menorah functional. We don't have these things. But what we have is the essence of what those things brought to the earth, the things that they represent in heaven, that bringing those to earth. Each one should be part of our daily and weekly and monthly and annual devotional lives. Third law of spiritual science. If you change a person's surroundings, if you change what he looks at, what he thinks about, and what he talks about, predictable changes will start to occur in that person's worldview, in that person's mood, in that person's demeanor, in that person's behavior, and in that person's impact upon the world. Oh, the Holy One knows this. If he can lift us up, if he can get us out of the looking around at the mundane, the profane, the unclean things of this world, if he can get our eyes focused upon the heavenly realm, the beauty realm of his kingdom, his courts, his chambers, his throne room, his essence, his beauty, if he can get us focusing on that, then it'll change the way we think, the way we view the world, the way we approach the world, the mood that we have, the demeanor we show, the behavior that we exhibit, the words that we speak, and the impact that we have. So this is the law of spiritual science. And he's doing that. This is the purpose of his Pekudei, of his visitation, of his inspection. The reason he comes to us is to lift our eyes, to lift up our heads, to get us up to a place where we're seeing beauty. And then we begin to reflect the beauty that we're seeing. The fourth law of spiritual science is of and from him to whom much has been given, much will be required. Oh, this is the beautiful process, the thing that the Holy One taught us through Messiah at a later date. This has been teaching. He's been teaching us all the way through the Torah. If he gives you much, from to him, much has been given. Much is required. But it's a beautiful requirement. It's a wonderful thing. If he's going to show us his beauty realm, if he's going to imbue us with his kedusha, his energy of holiness, the same thing that the 4 living creatures and the 24 elders and the cherubim and the seraphim and the angels of heaven draw off of him. If we as human beings can draw off that, much is then required of us. Now, the fifth law of spiritual science is that he who is forgiven much loves much. If we're not loving much, it means we have not received much forgiveness. We have not embraced the forgiveness offered to us. We have chosen to be instead offended, wounded, or take shame or blame. We have forsaken the gift of forgiveness, both to receive and to give. But he who is forgiven much loves much. That's the fifth law of spiritual science we've learned in the book of Exodus. We learned it through the Sinai experience. We learned it through the golden calf debacle and the forgiveness protocols that took place afterwards. He who is forgiven much, beloved, loves much. We are called to be lovers. This is our mission. We're called to be those who have been forgiven much. Therefore, we love much. Let's go on to the sixth law of spiritual science. Community. Getting together, doing things together, fellowshipping, whatever. Community is beautiful and it yields beautiful fruit, but only if, as, when, and to the extent it is done according to the Holy One's blueprint and his instructions and his priestly model. Otherwise, community is toxic. Otherwise, community is painful and harmful and actually does the exact opposite of bringing the healing, redemption, and restoration protocol that the Holy One wishes to bring. Community, our gathering together, our working together, our conversations together must be as he instructed them, according to his blueprint, instructions. And the priestly model he has set for us through the sons of Aharon, through Mashiach, later on down the road, but both are the same model, the model of service, of avodah, of love. Now that's the sixth law of spiritual science. The seventh law last week we also learned was forgive and you will be forgiven, give and it will be given to you. The secret to kingdom life, The secret to the purpose of plan of life for man, for us, is to give. Only those who have been touched by heaven are really consistent, ecstatic givers. Forgive and you will be given. Forgiven and give and it will be given to you. Forgiveness and giving are not to be separated. You must give forgiveness as well as anything else you would wish to give. A good measure it will be given to you. Pressed down, shaken together, and running over, the Messiah put it. These are things will be put into your bosom, if as when and to the extent you are willing to forgive and you are willing to give. For with the same measure that you use, it will be measured back to you. That's the seventh law of spiritual science. We learned that last week. And we're going to have the eighth law of spiritual science this week. And the eighth law of spiritual science will conclude the book of Exodus and lead us and give us a segue into the book of Leviticus or Vayikra. And here's the eighth. Are you ready for the eighth law of spiritual science? The eighth fundamental law of spiritual science. Here it is. If we build it according to his specifications, per his blueprint, he will come. He will inhabit what we have built. He will fill it with himself and his majesty and his kedusha. And he will ecosystem manage it. He will become the super for the entire project. And he will, through that, and through us following his directions and instructions, and us releasing the kedusha that he gives to us to carry, he will draw all nations to what we build, because what we build will be where he resides. He will draw all nations to himself through that protocol. If we build it per his specs, if we build it through his blueprint, if we build it the way he says to build life, if we build a devotional life that looks like the tabernacle, if we build a meditation life, if we build a conversation, an assembly and community life built that looks like the tabernacle, oh, beloved, he will come. He will inhabit it. He will fill it with himself. He will ecosystem manage it. He will draw all nations to himself through it. Well, with that said, let's do our call to worship, our baraku. This is the Hebrew blessing that's read before a reading from the Torah. And we will, in a few moments, read the first words of Pekudei. And so before we read the Torah, we say the baraku, or actually I sing it in Hebrew. Baraku et Adonai Hamborak. Baruch Adonai Hamborak Leolam Vaed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bakar Banu Mikol Ha'ahamin V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Ata Adonai Noten HaTorah. So now would you open our eyes, O Holy One, that we may see wondrous things in your Torah. For we are just strangers in this earth, so do not hide your commandments from us. Well, the closing words of Parsha Vayakel, the preceding Parsha or segment of Torah that we read, seeking to know the Holy One and know what his plans were, he said that all the pegs of the tabernacle, all the little details of the fastenings of the tabernacle were copper, bronze, nekoshet. What an interesting way to introduce the final Parsha of Torah. Pekudei will provide the segue into Sefer Vayikra and the stunning discourses of the korbanot, of what it takes to take a human being in its fallen state and process him into a place where he's usable by the Holy One. The stunning discourse and narrative of Yom Shemini, the eighth day of dedication, Nadav and Avihu, the falling of fire from heaven, the blessings given by Moshe and Aaron, and then the Kedusha discourses, the longest discourse of Torah, the longest part of Creator speak in Torah. That will be part of Sefer Vayikra. That will be that. But for now, the opening words of Parsha Pekudei, beginning with Exodus 38, verse 21. Ele Pekudei HaMishkan. This is the aftermath, or the account, or the report of the Shekinah place, the place of visitation. Mishkan HaEdut, It's a shekinah place of testimony with a great story to tell. Asher pakad al pi Moshe, prepared and given to us at the instruction of Moshe. Avodat HaLevim, it is a humble service of Levites, a service of love by the Levites. Biyad Itamar ben Aharon HaKohen, by the hand of Itamar, the son of Aaron, the Kohen, the priest. Betzalel ben Uri, and Betzalel, the son of Uri. This the count begins. This aftermath of the visitation begins. Betzalel ben Uri, and Betzalel, the son of Uri. Ben Hur, Lamatei Yehuda, of the son of Hur, of the tribe of Yehuda, Asa et Kol Asher Siva Adonai El Moshe, made everything, made all those things that the Holy One had instructed Moshe to make. Ve'ito Ahaliah ben Achasimach Lamate Dan, and with him was Aholiab, the son of Achisamach, of the tribe of Dan. There was a synergy developed. There was a working together. And of course, it wasn't just Betzalel and Ahaliah, these two persons filled with the Spirit of the living God. It was all the camp, all who were willing of heart, all who were volunteering, and all who were wise of heart came together and worked in perfect unity for 5.5 months, between the 10th day of the 7th month of the new year that we've been given for ourselves, beginning in the spring, all the way for 5.5 months to the beginning of the year again. And that's when we're going to see the events that are finalized, Pekudei in chapter 40. Well, Parsha Pekudei tells the story of months 7.5 through 12 of the first year, the prototypical year that we reproduce every year. 5.5 months it is that we're talking about in this Parsha, a prototypical on earth as is in heaven. Oh, if you ever want to know what it's supposed to look like, what our lives are supposed to look like, what our fruit is supposed to look like, what our conversations and our collaboration with each other and our fellowships with each other are supposed to look like, what our interactions with the world are supposed to look like, then these 5.5 months is your prototype, is your picture. It's Psalm 133. It's Hine matov manaim shevet achim gam yachad ki sham siva Adonai et habracha hayim ad ha'olam. How good, behold, how good and how pleasant it is when brothers dwell in unity, together in unity. For it is there, it is in that place that the Holy One has commanded the blessing of life forever, eternal, beyond the veil. Oh, the fullness of life. This is the 5.5 months of prototypical on earth, as is in heaven. This is our picture. This is our goal. This is our ideal. This is what we're aiming for, this kind of interactions with one another and with creation. If we build it exactly as he said to build it, if we shape our pattern our lives after it as he's told us to do, then he will make heaven come to earth. Little bits at a time until his kingdom comes in fullness with Messiah. Well, in Sefer Vayikra to come, that's going to all happen in 1 month, the first month of the new biblical year, in the second year, the year after the Exodus. It's going to tell the story of the next critical phase. After we build everything exactly as he's called, and after he comes and inhabits it, he's going to tell us the next critical phase is if he's in our camp, if he dwells there, if we're going to steward his manifest presence, if we're going to host royalty of the ultimate highest degree in our own camp, in our own lives, if he's going to dwell with us, dwell in us, if he's going to indwell humanity and earth, if that's going to happen, what's it going to cost? What's it going to have to change? How are we going to have to step up our game to be able to do it without profaning, without blaspheming, without producing corrupting it, without polluting it with kara, shikat, hamas? What will it mean? What will it entail? What will it require? What will it cost for humans to host the manifest presence of the Holy One in an earthly tabernacle? Yes, I can talk to you about the actual physical structure that was built at Sinai, or the temple that was built by Solomon, or the one that was redone by Zerubbabel, or the one that may be done, that will be done in the future according to the prophecies of Ezekiel. I could talk to you about all those things, but I want to talk to you. I want us, our conversations to be today primarily about the tabernacle that we are to become. It's not some religious building, religious structure, or part of an institution. It's human lives. Our human lives are supposed to be the model of the tabernacle, because the Messiah's was the model of the tabernacle. He followed the blueprint, the pattern of all the things that the Holy One told Moshe about the tabernacle. All the things that he did through Bezalel and Aholiab and all the inspired workers of the tabernacle. We're supposed to do everything like that, of that, in our lives. Our lives have become the tabernacle. Know ye not that your bodies are the tabernacle of God? Well, the outline of our narrative, the actual things that we'll discuss in Parsha Pekudei, the actual fallout of the visitation, is one flowing in unique creativity. Unique creativity, that when the Holy One comes, when he visits, when his Spirit rests upon some of those in our midst and begins to transmit and energize and synergize with us, when that happens, unique creativity flows. God is a creator. Our King, our Redeemer, is a creator, and he is always artistic and beautiful in what he does. He brings artistry to us. And so we begin to flow in this unique, synergized creativity. And in so doing, we follow the blueprint of the Torah and the specifications of this Torah to the letter, because that's what the Spirit within us does. It cries out for the letter of the Torah. The Spirit wrote the Torah, so therefore it cries out for the letter of it and the fulfillment of it and the beauty of it, shining in step-by-step stages. So the first thing in the outline is we see how in this 5.5-month period, the creativity flowed like water and synergized everybody in the camp. So whether it was shalom and peace and joy and productivity and fruitfulness and the thing that the Holy One wished to have happen, heaven come to earth, occurred. The second part of the outline of Pekudei, this parsha, is that you see that submitting willingly to both the visitation and inspection process and the divine standards necessary, we must understand we're going to be accountable. To whom much has been given, much is required. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing, because the world needs a people imbued with power from on high, imbued with the actual ways and thoughts and processes of heaven to come and bring those to the earth. And we are to do that. We have to be willing to be inspected, kept on a short leash with short accounts, and be willing to be reviewed and drawn back to the divine standard of Torah, not get off in our own theology and our own doctrinal grid, and not in our own opinions, and not in our own ways, not in our own thoughts of what's right and fair and just and equitable and moral. We need to stay on the standard. And this is a part of the requirements, that there will be an accounting. This is what Itamar did, and the Leviim helped with. And this is what was done by the mouth of Moshe, and it will be done in your life. The whole sequence of the biblical year is to keep you accountable. Everything that we call a festival is actually an accountability assignment. We have a certain part of our life in each of these Moedim, or festivals. Passover, unleavened bread, the 50 days of counting, the Omer, the Shavuot, or the Pentecost day, the days of leading up to Rosh Hashanah. That's how we call that, the month of Elul, the times of Teshuvah, then the day of Yom Teruah, the day of the blowing of trumpets, the 10 days of awe, the day of Yom Kippur, the days of Sukkot, of tabernacles, the 7 days of tabernacles, the 8 days festival of Shemini Atzeret and Simchat Torah, as it's now been called. And all these days are accountability periods that we're called to submit willingly to the visitation and inspection process, the Pekudei visitations, and to being conformed back to the divine standard of Torah. The third part of the outline is to make our words, our thoughts, our belief system come to life. Asa. We're not just to believe stuff, think stuff. We are to do stuff, to become, to make stuff. and to make those things come out. And we actually put on the garments then of divine service, the Pekudei Kohanim, the garments of the priests, the fine linen, the white linen that the saints of the kingdom wear, that we need to put on the garments of the holiness that the Holy One designs for us to carry in the world. And the fourth part is to prepare our hearts and our hearths and our camp for, and then to embrace without hesitation, the infilling.